You are not your fears, and you are not your hopes either. You are not your name, your history, your successes, or your failures. You are not the roles you play, not the child, not the father, not the soldier, not the king. You are the one watching all of that unfold. The still observer behind the noise, the will behind the mask, the soul behind the sword. That is who you are. And yet how often we forget. How often we let life sweep us away. Like leaves in a Roman gutter, drowning in the waters of impulse, fear, envy, desire. But you were not born to be tossed. You were born to stand like the old olive tree, bent but rooted, scarred but upright. This is the first lesson the Stoics would offer you. Know where your power ends and where your choice begins. You cannot control what the gods give you. You cannot command the wind or delay the rain or keep death from knocking on your door. But you can choose how you meet them. That's what Marcus Aurelius understood. He did not write in comfort. He did not meditate in peace. His empire was burning. His friends were dying. His enemies multiplying. He knew betrayal, fatigue, and the quiet loneliness of being the last honest man in a room full of flatterers. And yet he wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, then stop complaining. It will soon end." There's a kind of brutal mercy in that. No self-pity, no wailing, just a choice, stand and or kneel. Too many of us kneel without knowing it. We kneel to our moods, to distraction, to pleasure, to every passing thought that enters our minds like a drunk guest, shouting over our silence. But if you are to live like a Stoic, if you are to live with strength, then you must become the master of your own inner form. Silence the mob within, rule it with reason, with discipline, with virtue, because without that, you are a slave, not to any Caesar, but to your own untrained mind. Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But look around. We train, our bodies like warriors and our minds like fools. We fill our heads with noise, then wonder why peace escapes us. We chase things we cannot keep and abandon the only thing that is truly ours, our character. Understand this. You were not made for pleasure. You were made for purpose. Life is not a feast. It's a campaign. The Stoic walks into each day, like a soldier preparing for battle. He sharpens his reason like a blade. He trains his attention like a horse. He disciplines his desire like a monk, because he knows weakness is not punished later. It is punished now. You give in to anger and you destroy what matters most. You indulge in bitterness and you poison the well of your own soul. You cling to what's gone and you miss the life in front of you. That's why the first principle is control of the mind, not denial, not repression, control. Like a commander in the chaos of war, your thoughts must answer to you, not the other way around. Aurelius said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't be." What did he mean? He meant this: harm does not come from what others do to you. It comes from your judgment of what they do. They insult you? That's their action. Your pain, that's your judgment. They leave you? That's their decision. Your despair, that's your creation. You've handed your freedom to others without even realizing it. You let them pull the strings of your peace, but no one should have that power unless you give it. So stop giving it. Start owning it. Own your response. Own your time. Own your principles. You don't get to choose how long you live, but you do get to choose how deeply. You don't get to decide when storms come, but you do decide if you'll stand or run. This is what Stoicism gives you: a shield that no enemy can pierce and a sword that no failure can dull. It gives you sovereignty over the one thing that has always been and will always be yours alone: your reason. Let the world rage. Let the critics shout. Let the storms fall. You remain. Remain still. Remain focused. Remain disciplined. This is not weakness. It is power. Quiet power. the kind that builds nations, the kind that survives centuries, the kind that speaks without noise, acts without praise, and endures without applause. Marcus Aurelius did not need to be remembered. He needed only to be just. That was enough. Let that be enough for you, because the man who controls his mind cannot be conquered. And that is the first lesson. There is a kind of silence that only comes after pain. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of realization. When the noise of blame dies. When the questions cease. When all your cries meet the wall of reality, and nothing echoes back, but the truth, life owes you nothing. That silence is not cruel, it is cleansing, because in that silence you see clearly. The world does not bend for your comfort. It does not adjust itself to your preferences. It simply is, harsh, beautiful, chaotic, and completely indifferent to your plans. And yet, you still have a choice. Always. The Stoics never promised ease. They offered something harder and better. Inner command. Seneca once wrote, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. We fear pain as if it is eternal, and we chase pleasure as if we are. But both are passing. What remains, what always remains, is the kind of person you are in the face of both. Pleasure will tempt you. Suffering will test you. Neither is the enemy." Your response is, ask yourself, when pleasure comes, do you indulge without limit? When pain arrives, do you collapse? What you tolerate in yourself becomes your character, and your character is your fate. No king, no God, no government can save you from the consequences of your own habits. So build the right ones. Build stillness. Build discipline. Build the kind of mind that watches its impulses like a hawk watches the field, never striking. Without cause, never surrendering to chaos, because most men are prisoners of their own feelings. They call it freedom, but they are chained to every emotion, every whim, every whisper of ego that tells them they are owed something by the world. But the Stoic knows, you are owed nothing. Not happiness, not fairness, not time. The sun does not rise for you. The stars do not shine for your ambitions. Death does not pause because you are not ready. So stop waiting for life to adjust. Adjust yourself. Be like the blade that is tested again and again, and becomes sharper with every strike. That is how virtue is formed, not in comfort, in confrontation. The second lesson is this: face discomfort without complaint. Face difficulty without escape, because pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. And in that avoidance, 1,000 smaller deaths occur. Integrity dies. Resolve dies. Self-respect dies. You think you're sparing yourself. You are hollowing yourself. Every time you run, from effort, from discipline, from silence, from truth, you carve a little more of your soul away. But every time you stay, every time you breathe through the fire and say, "Let it burn, I will remain," you are forged. You are tempered, like a sword left in the heat. The very thing that could destroy you becomes the thing that strengthens you. The Stoics did not seek suffering. They simply stopped fearing it. They wore hardship like armor, because they knew. No man becomes wise through comfort. No man becomes free by accident. The cost of freedom is self-mastery. And self-mastery means this: you do not speak every thought. You do not chase every pleasure. You do not collapse at every wound. You walk through life knowing you will be hurt and choosing to remain unmoved by anything that does not touch your soul. People will lie. Let them. People will betray. Let them. People will change, leave, forget. Let them. You. Remain rooted, virtuous, unbent. This is not detachment, this is strength. A strength that comes not from coldness, but from clarity. You see things as they are, and still choose to live with purpose, not preference. The wind howls. Let it howl. The Stoic builds his house on stone, because he knows The test of character is not how you feel when things go well, but who you are when everything falls apart. And it will. Friends will turn, dreams will shatter, plans will fail. And in those moments, you'll have only one refuge, your principles. Everything else burns, but virtue endures. That is why Marcus Aurelius spent every morning reminding himself, "Today I will meet with meddling, ingratitude, arrogance, dishonesty, jealousy, and selfishness." Not to despair, but to prepare. To walk into the day like a warrior, already armored in patience, in humility, in endurance. Because when you expect the world to be cruel and meet it with courage, when you expect the world to be unjust and meet it with justice, when you expect the world to be chaotic and meet it with clarity, you become unbreakable. This is not about being emotionless. This is about not being ruled. It is not about being perfect. It is about being principled. When the world is loud, be quiet. When the world is quick, be still. When the world deceives, be honest. When the world forgets, remember. Because that's the difference between the ordinary and the Stoic. The ordinary man survives the day, the Stoic shapes it, and that is the second lesson. Look closely at the face of a disciplined man. You will not see rage. You will not see chaos. You will not see the hunger for applause or revenge. You will see stillness, not because he feels less, but because he commands more. That is what Stoicism offers. Not numbness, but mastery. Not escape, but engagement. A life lived deliberately, not as a puppet pulled by instinct, but as a commander who gives orders to himself. Because there are two versions of every man, the one that reacts and the one that responds. Reaction is easy. It's fast. It's loud. It feels strong, but it's weak, because it needs the world to go its way. But response, that's different. Response comes from depth, from thought, from patience. It's the hand that holds the sword, not the hand that flails it. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He saw the empire crumble and did not flinch. He faced betrayal, sickness, war, and remained. He did not seek to control the chaos around him. He sought to rule the only empire he truly possessed, himself. That is the third lesson. Discipline is freedom, not the discipline of punishment, the discipline of alignment. When your actions match your values, when your words are not loose but chosen, when your days are not wasted but weighed. Most people live by feeling, but feelings are weather. They pass. One day you rise with hope. The next you drown in doubt. If you follow the clouds, you'll never walk a straight path. But discipline is the compass. It does not ignore emotion. It simply refuses to kneel before it. And that is rare. Because modern life worships emotion. We are told to feel deeply, to express everything, to chase the next high, but the Stoic asks, why? What has impulse given you? Has indulgence built you? Has comfort carved strength? No. They've made you soft. They've made you scattered. They've filled your day with movement, but stolen your direction. The man who cannot sit still with himself, who cannot delay gratification, who cannot remain silent in the face of insult, is not a man. He is a leaf, tossed, uprooted. Discipline is not chains. Discipline is roots. It is the decision to say no, not because you are afraid, but because you are focused. It is waking up before dawn when no one watches, because virtue doesn't need an audience. It is working while others rest, not for applause, but because excellence is its own reward. And that is freedom. Freedom is not doing what you want. Freedom is the power to not do what destroys you, to not answer every insult, to not chase every comfort, to not eat, drink, speak, scroll, or lash out, just because you feel like it. Freedom is when your mind bows only to reason, not appetite. That's why the Stoics trained themselves in hardship. They fasted, not to punish the body, but to remind the soul, you are not your hunger. They walked in the cold, not for glory, but to whisper, To fear, you do not own me. Discipline is a kind of war, but not a war against others. A war against weakness, against passivity, against the voice that says later, tomorrow, just this once. That voice is your enemy, and you hear it every day. When the alarm rings and your body says, stay. When injustice rises and your anger says explode. When silence falls and your fear says run. But the Stoic listens and chooses differently. He chooses the harder thing. Because the harder thing is almost always the right thing. No shortcuts, no excuses, just the quiet repetition of right action, one moment at a time. He doesn't need motivation. He has clarity. He doesn't need inspiration. He has resolve, because he knows. Discipline is not something you turn on when it's convenient. It's who you are when no one is watching. It's how you carry yourself when there is no reward. It's what you do when you're tired, angry, cold, and alone, and then still you rise, because the path is narrow, and most will not walk it. Most will choose ease. Most will drown in noise. Most will trade their time for nothing, their mind for comfort, their soul for applause. But not if you live by this. Discipline is not sacrifice. It is identity. And when you choose it, daily, hourly, silently, you become free in a way the world cannot touch. No chaos can break you. No storm can move you. No loss can unmake you. Because you are not held together by luck or comfort. You are held together by discipline. And that is the third lesson. There is a kind of strength that makes no sound. It does not shout. It does not boast. It does not need to be seen. It simply is, present, immovable, like a mountain in the storm. That strength is reason, not logic in the cold academic sense, but reason as a way of living, a compass, a governor. The one thing that remains when feeling flares, when anger burns, when grief drowns, and you still must choose what is right. This is the fourth lesson. Let reason rule you, or something else will. And what else is there? Emotion, impulse, crowd thinking, the approval of strangers who don't even know your name. Marcus Aurelius saw all of this. He ruled an empire, but never let the empire rule him. He walked through palaces, surrounded by marble, gold, wine, and temptation, and yet returned again and again to silence, to a room alone, to a journal no one would read. Why? Because he knew the danger wasn't outside the palace. It was inside his own mind. The true battle is always internal. It's not about conquering others. It's about conquering your reaction to others. It's not about winning arguments. It's about not needing to argue. It's not about having more power. It's about using what power you have with justice. That's why reason must sit on the throne of your soul. Because without it, something else will take the seat. Pride, pleasure, resentment, and none of those lead to freedom. The Stoic knows the greatest victories happen in silence. When you want to lash out, and you don't. When you want to quit, and you don't. When you want to blame, and instead, you act. Because reason is not passive. Reason does not sit and hope. Reason moves. It calculates, it observes, it waits, it strikes. Not blindly, but wisely. Seneca said, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." Most people live like that. They wake, they scroll, they drift. They confuse movement with meaning. They confuse noise with progress. They confuse feeling with fact, but you must not. You must live deliberately with a direction, with an aim, with a code, not just for the easy days, but for the storm. Because when emotion is high, vision narrows. You will want to shout. You will want to fight. You will want to indulge, escape, give in. But those are the moments where reason must rise like a shield. Ask yourself, is this action aligned with who I claim to be? Is this reaction useful or just loud? Will I be proud of this in 1 year? In 1 hour? In 1 breath? That is what a Stoic asks. Not, do I feel like it? But, Is it right? Not, will this be easy? But, will this be virtuous? Because ease will pass. But your choices echo. Every action either builds the man you want to become, or betrays him. So act like a sculptor. Chisel carefully. Every moment is marble. Every decision leaves a mark. You may never wear a crown, but you already rule a kingdom, your mind. And if you cannot rule that, nothing else matters. So do not let anger sit on the throne. Do not let lust write your laws. Do not let fear whisper your policies. Let reason speak. Let it be slow. Let it be sharp. Let it guide your tongue. Let it govern your habits. Let it teach you when to fight and when to walk away. Because sometimes strength is silence. Sometimes wisdom is restraint. Sometimes courage is saying no, not because you are afraid, but because you understand the cost. Most people only see the fire. They react to the heat. They throw wood on it. They curse the flames. But the Stoic sees the source. He steps back. He breathes. He responds, not to punish, not to dominate, but to realign the world to justice. That is the work of reason. To lift you above pettiness, to steady you in uncertainty, to clarify what actually matters, and burn away what doesn't, because much of what you suffer isn't real. It's imagined. It's inflated. It's your expectations clashing with reality, and your refusal to let go of how things should be. But reason does not deal in fantasy. It faces what is, calmly, directly, without flinching. That is the root of its power. Reason does not shout, it doesn't need to, it looks, it understands, it acts, and when it rules, the soul becomes still. Like a great general commanding without chaos, like a just king judging without pride, like a wise man walking through fire, unmoved. This is not weakness. This is order. This is not suppression. This is sovereignty. And this is the fourth lesson. There is a virtue rarer than genius, more powerful than strength, more luminous than fame. It is virtue itself. The fifth lesson is this: live by virtue, or you live in vain. And yet, how easily we trade it for gain, for comfort, for the applause of those who would forget our name tomorrow. We chase wealth but neglect justice. We chase status but abandon humility. We chase desire but forget discipline. But the Stoic knows, nothing you gain from the world is worth the cost of losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire on earth, and yet he reminded himself daily that power means nothing if it is not just. That success means nothing if it is not earned with virtue. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's it, be one. Not when it's easy, not when you're watched, but especially when no one sees. Because virtue isn't something you wear, it's something you carry, quietly, like a blade hidden beneath the cloak. It's not for show. It's for war. The war against what tempts you to forget who you are. Pride will whisper, you deserve more. Greed will say, just this once. Cowardice will plead, stay silent. And virtue says nothing. It just remains. It acts. It chooses the harder path. It sacrifices the short pleasure for the eternal standard. Virtue is not about being liked. It is about being right. And sometimes being right means being alone. It means saying no when others cheer yes. It means holding the line when others abandon it. It means refusing to bend, not because you are stubborn, but because you are rooted in principle. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good, not pleasure, not possessions, not praise, because all of those can be taken. But virtue, no one can take that from you. Not war, not ruin, not even death. It is the only thing that cannot be stolen. It is the only wealth you carry beyond the grave. So the question is not, what do you want from life? The question is, What kind of person are you becoming through the pursuit of it? Every deal, every word, every silence, every compromise. These are bricks in the house of your soul. Will it be strong? Will it be upright? Or will it crack when the winds of time howl? You cannot hide from yourself. You can lie to others. You can build a monument with your name on it. You can fill your home with gold. But when you're alone, and you will be, your conscience will speak. And it doesn't care how high you climbed, if you stepped on corpses to get there. The Stoic understands this. He plays the long game. He asks not, will this make me rich? But will this make me worthy? He does not measure his day by pleasure or profit, but by whether he acted in alignment with his values. Courage, justice, wisdom, temperance, the 4 cardinal virtues, and each of them demands sacrifice. Courage demands you face what scares you. Justice demands you speak when silence is safer. Wisdom demands you listen when your pride wants to talk. Temperance demands you stop when everything in you says more. That's why most men won't walk the Stoic path, because it is not rewarded immediately, but it builds something deeper. A man who can sleep soundly, a man who can lose everything and not lose himself, a man who, at the end of life, does not tremble at the judgment of time. The world may forget you, but eternity does not forget virtue, and that is your true legacy. Not the name on the stone, but the weight of your choices while you lived. So live like this matters, because it does. In every meeting, in every conflict, in every temptation, ask, what is the virtuous thing to do? Not the easy thing, not the popular thing, the right thing. Because no one can stop you from choosing that. They can take your money, your freedom, your health. But they cannot force you to lie. They cannot force you to cheat. They cannot make you abandon your values unless you surrender them willingly. So don't. Hold your ground. Be fierce in your integrity. Not loud. Firm. Not arrogant. Anchored. Even if no one claps. Even if it costs you. Especially if it costs you. Because that's when virtue means something. Not when it's convenient, when it's costly. That is the proof, and that is the 5th lesson. There comes a moment, not once but many times in life, when the world breaks something inside you. Not out of cruelty, out of indifference. The death comes, the betrayal cuts, the loss strips you bare. And in that moment you realize, no amount of effort, no volume of prayer, no preparation could have stopped it. That is the 6th lesson. Accept what is beyond you, and command what is within. This is where philosophy ceases to be an idea and becomes a survival skill, because nothing tests your soul like helplessness. When the storm hits and you cannot move the wind, when the loved one slips away and all your strength means nothing, when life says no and your fists pound against silence, what do? You accept, not with weakness, with strength, because acceptance is not surrender. It is the highest form of courage, to face what is without illusion, and still rise. The Stoics trained for this. Every day they reminded themselves of death, not to be morbid, but to be awake. You could leave life right now, Marcus wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think, not later. Now, this breath could be the last, and if it were, would you have lived rightly? That's the question. Not whether you avoided pain, not whether you achieved your goals, but whether you lived in alignment with the truth, the hard, unfiltered truth of mortality. Because once you understand that you control nothing but your mind, you are finally free. Free from entitlement. Free from rage at the sky. Free from the fantasy that the world will ever match your desires. This is not pessimism, it's liberation. What is more freeing than knowing? You don't need the world to behave. You don't need the weather to change. You don't need their apology, or their understanding, or their praise. You only need to choose your response again and again, with clarity and virtue. That is strength. To bury a child and still act with compassion. To lose the job and not lose your character. To be betrayed and still not become bitter. Because bitterness is weakness. It feels powerful, but it's the mind refusing to accept what has already happened. It is arguing with the past, and that argument always loses. The Stoic doesn't argue. He accepts. He adapts. He adjusts his sails, because what matters is not what the sea does. What matters is how you steer. Look at the world around you. Most people fight everything. They fight aging, they fight traffic, they fight delay, they rage at inconvenience as if life were made to serve them. But the Stoic smiles, not because he enjoys suffering, but because he recognizes the futility of resistance. There is a Latin phrase, amor fati, love of fate, not tolerance of it, not endurance of it. Love. Why? Because every moment, even the hard ones, is an opportunity to live with integrity, to show patience, to embody grace, to practice humility. You cannot become great without trials. You cannot become wise without pain. And you cannot become free until you accept that you control almost nothing, except how you meet the fire, with what posture, with what spirit, with what values. You can spit at the flame, you can curse the gods, or you can stand still and let it burn away everything that is not essential. Because when the smoke clears and the ashes settle, what remains is who you truly are. And if you have acted with courage, with calm, with honor, then you have lost nothing. You have gained yourself. That is the essence of Stoicism, not to escape life, to meet it as it is, without pleading, without resentment, without illusion, just the facts. The storm has come. Yes, the body is failing. Yes, the people you loved are gone. Yes, now what? The answer is simple. Live well. Not despite these truths, but because of them. Because time is short. Because fate is blind. Because everything can be taken, except your choice. And as long as that remains, you are not powerless. You are not a victim. You are a citizen of the universe, and your role is not to rewrite the script, it is to play it nobly. So walk forward, not with rage, with resolve, not with fear, with acceptance. And remember, even in the face of death, the Stoic bows to no one but reason, and that is the sixth lesson. There is a quiet moment between thought and action, a breath, a space, a pause where a man decides who he is. Before the words leave your mouth, before the anger turns into motion, before desire becomes decision. In that space, you are free. Free to rise, free to fall, free to uphold your standard, or abandon it, and that is the seventh lesson. Right action is the only proof of a right philosophy. It does not matter what you believe if your hands betray your mind. It does not matter what you write if your habits rot in the dark. You can quote Marcus Aurelius all day, but if you lie, if you cheat, if you live only for pleasure, you are not a Stoic. You are a parrot. Philosophy is not something you say, it is something you do. And the Stoics were not dreamers. They were doers. Their wisdom was carved through effort, through scars, through 1,000 choices made when no one was watching. They understood that virtue does not exist in theory. It must become action. Courage is not a feeling. It is walking into fear. Justice is not a value. It is defending the truth even when it costs. Temperance is not an idea. It is putting down the cup, turning off the screen, walking away from what pulls you from clarity. Wisdom is not a prize. It is built through listening when you want to speak, pausing when you want to explode, reflecting when you want to act. That is the battlefield. Not in Rome, not in the Senate, not on the throne, inside you. In the moments where you feel something rising and choose not to serve it, because life will press you, it will trigger you, it will tempt you, it will offer you shortcuts. Revenge instead of forgiveness, indulgence instead of discipline, cruelty instead of compassion. And in those moments, your philosophy will be tested, not in your library, in your life. When someone insults you, do you strike back? Or do you stand firm? When someone betrays you, do you rot in bitterness or do you remain just? When pleasure whispers, do you surrender? Or do you remember who you are? This is what separates the Stoic from the pretender. Not what he knows, what he does. Not what he feels, what he chooses in the fire. Because the world doesn't care what you believe. It will judge you by your actions, and rightly so. Your child will remember how you treated them when you were tired. Your lover will remember if you kept your word when it cost you. Your enemies will remember if you remained calm when they tried to provoke you. And most of all, you will remember. There is no escape from the man in the mirror. You can lie to the world, but your soul knows. It knows when you compromised. It knows when you stayed silent out of fear. It knows when you said yes, when you should have said no. So stop asking what Stoicism means, and start asking, am I acting in alignment with what I claim to value? And if the answer is no, good. Now you know where to begin, not tomorrow. Now, because the right time is always now. The Stoics wrote of living according to nature, not as beasts but as rational beings. You are not instinct. You are not appetite. You are not your reaction. You are reason. You are choice. You are the quiet strength of self-command. So live like it. Not once. Not when you feel like it. Every day, every hour, every breath. Because you don't build character in a single heroic moment. You build it brick by brick. In the silence of effort, in the shadows of decision, in the places where no one gives you credit, but you choose what is right anyway. Do not wait for the perfect opportunity. Do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait until others behave better. Do what is right now, because that is the only time you are promised, not tomorrow, not after the apology, not after the promotion. Now, right action does not need a perfect setting. It just needs courage and clarity and the will to act, even when you don't feel like it. The Stoic does not need motivation. He has purpose. He does not need inspiration. He has principles. He does not wait for life to become easier. He becomes stronger, and in every choice he writes his legacy, not in books but in the hearts of those he touches. He may never be famous, but he will be remembered by the weight of his deeds, because that is all that endures. Not what you thought, but what you did with those thoughts, and that is the seventh lesson. Peace is not found in silence, nor in retreat, nor in the absence of problems. Peace, true peace, is the stillness that remains while the storm rages on. This is the eighth lesson. Cultivate inner peace, not as escape, but as your position in the war, because you are at war every day, not with others, but with the pull of your own chaos, with the surge of reaction, with the thirst for validation, with the craving for what you cannot have and the rejection of what life hands you. And peace, the Stoic kind, does not come by accident. It is a practice, a discipline, a daily confrontation with the noise that wants to take root in your mind. The Stoic does not wait for peace. He builds it, stone by stone, thought by thought, choice by choice. Because if you cannot find peace within yourself, you will not find it anywhere, not in a new job, not in a lover's arms, not in the silence of the mountains or the rituals of spirituality. You will carry your unrest with you like a shadow until you learn to quiet it at the source. And the source is you, not the world, not other people, not your past, your pain, or your circumstances. You. Peace is not given. It is chosen, and it is defended, because the world will come for it, with distraction, with urgency, with fear dressed as logic, with desire dressed as necessity, and you must learn to say no, not with anger, with clarity. You must protect the temple of your mind, like a general guards the final stronghold. Nothing unworthy enters, no gossip, no panic, no comparison, no indulgence of fantasy over fact. Because the moment you allow those things in, you are no longer a Stoic. You are a puppet, pulled by the strings of thoughtless emotion. But the Stoic cuts the strings. He returns to the center, again and again. When chaos swirls, he breathes. When pressure rises, he slows. When all demand reaction, he holds his posture. Because he knows. The most powerful man in the room is not the one who speaks loudest. It is the one who remains unmoved. And that stillness is not emptiness. It is force, compressed. It is fire, contained. It is the discipline of a mind that does not flinch. Marcus Aurelius ruled millions, but he also ruled his own breath. He returned to it, again and again, not as weakness, as wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That sentence is not just poetic, it is instruction. Return to your mind. When the world gets loud, return. When people provoke you, return. When life disappoints, return. Because if you lose that connection, if you let the noise drag you outward, you are lost, not in body. In soul, you become scattered, reactive, restless. And that is how most people live, not because they are evil, but because they have never been still. Stillness is not idleness. It is control. It is the eye of the hurricane, calm while everything around it spins. The Stoic builds that eye within. He clears the clutter. He limits his inputs. He fasts, not just from food, but from noise, from novelty, from the endless screaming of a world that demands attention but offers no meaning. Because attention is life. Where your mind goes, your life follows. And if you allow your mind to be hijacked by envy, by ego, by endless consumption, then you are not living. You are drifting. But stillness brings you back. To now, to breath, to truth. To that one essential question, what is in my control right now? Answer it, act on it. Let everything else burn. That is how peace is built, not in thoughts, but in focus. Not in escape, but in alignment. Not in removing yourself from the world, but in standing firm in the center of it, untouched. And that kind of peace, earned, forged, maintained, becomes your power. People will see it. They won't understand it. They will wonder why you don't panic, why you don't lash out, why you don't chase what everyone else is chasing. Let them wonder. You owe no explanation for your stillness. You owe only this: right action. That is the way of the Stoic, to walk through the fire and remain cool, to hear the noise and remain quiet, to lose everything and remain whole. Because peace is not luxury, it is strength. And that is the 8th lesson. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the mastery of it. It is not how hard you can strike. It is how calmly you can stand when life strikes first. This is the 9th lesson. True power is inner strength, the kind that bends without breaking, endures without noise, and walks forward when nothing is certain. The world will tell you that strength is domination, that it is volume, that it is muscle, that it is victory at any cost. But the Stoic knows, those who shout the loudest are often the most fragile. The truly strong are quiet, not because they are passive, but because they are sure. They don't need the world to recognize them. They don't need approval to move. They don't need revenge to feel whole. Because they have trained the one thing that cannot be taken, the fortress of the inner life. You must build that fortress, stone by stone, not with arrogance, but with awareness, not with pride, but with principle, not with noise, but with presence. Because one day, life will test your foundation. It will hit the door. It will send fire through your halls. It will shake the walls of everything you thought was secure. And on that day, what matters is not how much you owned or how much you achieved. It is how deep your roots go, whether you held to your values when it hurt, whether you kept your soul intact while your world collapsed, whether you remained upright, not perfect, but unbroken. That's the difference. The weak collapse inwards, the strong hold, not through resistance but through clarity. They know what to protect and what to release, because not everything is worth carrying. Some insults must fall to the ground. Some losses must be grieved, not clung to. Some battles must be walked away from, not out of cowardice, but because your energy belongs elsewhere. This is what inner strength gives you, the ability to choose wisely. Even when everything around you is collapsing, to keep your hands steady, to keep your voice measured, to keep your mind clear, not numb. Present. Pain comes, you feel it, but you do not become it. Fear comes, you acknowledge it, but you do not obey it. Chaos comes, you stand still. That is power, not power over others, power over yourself, the only power that endures. Because you cannot stop the storm, but you can become the eye within it. Look at the men who have suffered and still stand. With peace in their eyes, they are not lucky. They are trained, forged, disciplined. They have failed. They have wept. They have lost everything and found themselves still breathing, still choosing what is right. They are free, and you must become one of them. That is what this whole path is for. Not for pride, not for praise, but so that when the fire comes, and it will, you will not be consumed. You will be revealed, because fire does not destroy what is true. It burns away what is not. And in that burning, a stronger thing emerges, a clearer voice, a cleaner heart, a soul that has seen the darkness and chosen to walk through it with eyes wide open. No illusions, no fantasies, just presence, just practice, just breath and choice, and the next step. Because strength is not found in one heroic act. It is the sum of thousands of silent refusals, refusing to quit, refusing to lie, refusing to hate, refusing to collapse into despair when life shows its teeth. And if you practice this, not once, but always, strength becomes who you are. It becomes the air you breathe, the posture you carry, the calm you bring to every room. People will feel it. They may not understand it, but they will know. This man has walked through something, and he has returned with something deeper than words, not answers, presence, not certainty, clarity, not bravado, power. That is the gift of inner strength. You don't need to take it, you need only build it, day by day, choice by choice, step by step, in silence. And that is the 9th lesson. Death is not the end, it is the reminder that everything you are is temporary. Everything you hold will pass. Everything you fear will vanish. Everything you chase will be dust. This is the 10th lesson. Remember death, not to despair but to awaken. The Stoics did not avoid this truth, they stared into it. They walked beside it. They carried it in their pocket. Like a stone, cold, heavy, real, memento mori. Remember, you must die. Not someday, at any time. And with that knowledge, sharpened, not dulled, they chose how to live. Because when you remember death, every petty thing falls away. The insult, forgotten. The delay, irrelevant. The opinion of strangers, meaningless. When death is close, and it is always close, what matters becomes clear. Did you live with honor? Did you love without pride? Did you rise not when you felt strong, but when you were broken? Did you choose what was right over what was easy? Most people live as if they are eternal. They waste days like water. They argue over things they will not remember. They chase status they cannot carry beyond the grave. But the Stoic, he lives with death in the room, not to be haunted, to be humbled, to be focused, because time is not yours. You do not own tomorrow. You are not owed one more sunrise. So why speak in anger? Why waste the morning? Why delay the act of virtue for another day you may never reach? There is no someday, only this, only now, only the task in front of you. Do it with care, with full presence, as if it were your last act, because it might be. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not later, not after the meeting. Now, would you hold that grudge? Would you scroll the hour away? Would you curse the traffic? Would you raise your voice over something that won't matter in eternity?" The Stoic sees through the veil. He sees time not as an endless road, but as a burning wick, shorter by the second. He does not panic. He prioritizes. He loves harder, speaks clearer, chooses cleaner, because he knows that every day is a rehearsal for the final act, and when that act comes, and it will, there will be no applause, only the quiet measure of your soul. Did you live with virtue? Did you serve with grace? Did you leave the world more honest than you found it? That is the Stoic's judgment, not of others, of himself. Death is not the villain. Forget that myth. It is the mirror, the great leveler, the purifying fire. It does not come to steal your life. It comes to show you how to value it, what you cling, to what you run from, what you take for granted and what truly remains, because all the noise, the fame, the fear, the titles, the gold, death removes it all. And all that remains is the essence, your character, your choices, your ability to walk into the unknown with clarity, not screaming, not bargaining, but simply breathing and bowing and saying, "I was here. I did my best. I did not waste it." That's all. No statues, no songs, just that quiet knowing. And maybe, if you lived rightly, your courage will live on in someone else. Not your name, your example. That's legacy, not memory. Impact, not fame. Virtue, repeated through the actions of others. And that is why the Stoics embraced death, because they knew it made life sharper. It stripped away illusion. It forced them to choose, not perfection. Presence, not noise. Depth, not someday. Now. So remember death, not to be afraid, to be free. Free to let go of what weighs nothing in eternity. Free to focus on what is truly yours. Your choices, your integrity, your moment. Because death is not the end. It is the gate, and how you walk toward it, with fear or with purpose, is the final measure of the life you lived. And that is the 10th lesson. Time is not something you have. It is something you spend, and it is being spent now, with or without your permission, with or without your awareness. Tick by tick, grain by grain, the sand falls, and no hand can stop it. This is the 11th lesson, honor time, because it is the only wealth you cannot earn back. The world lies to you. It tells you that time is abundant, that tomorrow is waiting, that delay is harmless, that your real life is still ahead. But Marcus Aurelius knew better. He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good, not later. Now." The Stoics understood. To waste time is to steal from yourself. To put off action is to erode your own legacy. To drift is to die slowly. Because life is not lost all at once. It is lost in minutes, in distractions, in things that don't matter, in conversations you didn't mean, in arguments that changed nothing, in pleasures that left you emptier than before. Look at your day. Look at how you move through it. How much of it is lived, fully, deliberately, with presence, and how much is abandoned, given away, wasted on things that pull you further from your values. The tragedy is not that life is short. It's that we make it shorter by not paying attention. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." He was right, because you know this already. You've felt it, that ache at the end of a wasted day, that frustration of saying, where did the time go? It went. It always does. The question is, did you go with it, or did you let it drag you asleep? The Stoic does not drift. He decides. He measures time, not in hours, but in actions. Not, in duration, but in depth. He knows one well-lived hour is worth more than a year lost in noise, and so he moves with intention. He wakes not to escape, but to engage. He works not to fill the day, but to fulfill his role. He rests not to run from effort, but to restore his strength for service. Because to the Stoic, every moment is a test, not of speed, of clarity. What will you do with this breath, this hour, this one chance to speak, to act, to rise? You don't get it back. There is no refund, no rewind, no second version. There is only this version, raw, fragile, brief. So live like it, not frantically, but fully. Strip away what doesn't matter. Refuse distraction, like a warrior refuses poison. Guard your time like a fortress. Do not give it cheaply, because those who steal your time, with drama, with gossip, with demands that serve neither virtue nor purpose, are not neutral. They are robbing you. And if you allow it, you are complicit. The Stoic draws a line. He says, "This is what matters. This is where my time goes." And he defends that line, not with rage, with resolve. He knows he cannot do everything, so he chooses what is essential and lets the rest fall away. That is clarity. That is freedom. Not to have more time, to stop wasting the time you already have. This is the true discipline, to live like a dying man, not in despair, in focus. Because the dying man does not waste minutes. He sees clearly. He loves deeply. He speaks truth. He drops pretense. He chooses what matters and leaves the rest. Why wait until death for that kind of vision? Why not live that way now? You are dying, not all at once, but in moments. And the only question that matters is, are you living as if that is true? The Stoic does. He does not wait. He does not wander. He wakes. He chooses. He acts. Because time is his greatest teacher, and the lesson is simple. You do not have forever. Stop acting like you do. Let others waste their days. Let others wait for the right time. Let others drown in distraction. You live now, here, as if this moment were your last, because one day it will be, and that is the 11th lesson. At the end of it all, there is silence. No applause, no final answer, no spotlight, just silence. And in that silence, one question remains. Did you live well? Not, did you win? Not, did they remember your name? Not, did you avoid pain, escape, failure, gather fortune? But this, were you just? Were you present? Were you true? This is the 12th and final lesson. Live rightly and let go of everything else, because you will have to let go of your body, of your titles, of your image, of the outcomes you chased, of the fears you fed, of the people you tried to please, of the old stories you told yourself about who you are. In the end, it all falls away, even the memory, even the name, even the mark you thought you left on the world. The Stoics never tried to escape this truth. They welcomed it, because in that letting go, something greater is revealed. Freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, the freedom to need nothing, to live so fully in alignment with nature, with virtue, that nothing is lost when everything is taken. To stand in the final moment and feel no panic, no regret, no unfinished business in the soul, because you did what was yours to do. You did not waste it. You did not live on autopilot. You did not betray your character for the sake of comfort or applause. You lived, not perfectly, but intentionally. That is the measure. That is the goal. To live so that if death arrived today, you would not beg for more time. You would bow in gratitude for what time you had. Not everyone reaches this. Most wait. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, the permission of others, the illusion of enough. But the Stoic waits for nothing. He acts, he gives, he serves. He returns to the present again and again and again, not because it is easy, but because it is all that exists. There is no past to fix. There is no future to own. There is only now, and what you bring into it. Bring stillness, bring virtue, bring the fullness of your attention. That is worship. That is wisdom. That is the only true victory. To live in full awareness, in full alignment, without depending on anything outside yourself. You want peace? Let go. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of needing to be understood. Let go of needing to be praised, defended, congratulated, remembered. Let go of needing the day to unfold your way. Let go of needing others to change. Let go of every story that begins with, "I'll be happy when," because happiness is not in the next thing. It is in this thing. When it is accepted completely, lived honestly, met with gratitude and simplicity, to want less, to do less, to mean more. That is the Stoic art of living, not in a rush to leave a mark, but in a quiet commitment to be whole. Right here. You don't need to conquer the world. You only need to master yourself. That is legacy, not marble statues, not history books, but the invisible ripple of right action. The people you healed through your presence, the lives you touched through your calm, the battles you ended through your restraint. That is enough. So now, let go. You've done your work. You've stood your ground. You've said what needed saying. You've lived with courage. Now breathe. Feel the earth under your feet. Feel the weight of all you carried, and how little of it really mattered. Feel the stillness in your chest. That is your soul. It does not scream. It does not cling. It does not beg. It just is. Steady. Watching, free. That is who you are beneath the roles, beneath the scars, beneath the noise. You are not your victories. You are not your wounds. You are not your fears, your failures, or your dreams. You are the one who moved through it all and never gave up on the truth. So now, step back, return to the center, and carry this one final vow. I will live as if every breath is borrowed. I will choose what is right, not what is easy. I will be still even in the fire. I will let go even when it hurts. I will love without fear and leave without regret. That is the way. That is the Stoic life, and it is yours, for as long as this breath lasts.